Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving deep, and I mean deep, into a case that's both chilling and, let's be honest, a little too close to home for comfort.
You could say that.
We're talking about Ravensmere. Think idyllic coastal town, charming, right? But scratch the surface.
And you've got a dark secret lurking beneath.
Exactly. And that secret is tied to the disappearance of Evelyn Carter, a young marine biologist, vanished without a trace.
During the town's annual Festival of Whispers, no less.
Yeah.
Adds a certain spooky element, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. But before we get into the how of Evelyn's disappearance, let's talk about the why. Because this wasn't a random vanishing act. Evelyn was on the verge of exposing something big, something that someone in Ravensmere wanted to keep buried.
Her research, it was groundbreaking. She was looking into some strange ecological shifts happening off the coast. Fish die-offs, rapid temperature changes, things that just didn't add up.
Red flags.
Yeah.
Big time. And what do those red flags point to?
Well, let's just say there were whispers, rumors of environmental pollutants, possibly linked to some offshore corporate operations.
Now it's starting to get interesting. Corporate greed, a missing scientist, a town full of secrets. This is what deep dives are made of. So who are the key players in this Ravensmere drama? Give us the rundown.
Well, you've got Mayor Thomas Grayson. Charming, charismatic, ambitious, big plans for Ravensmere's tourism industry. But there were these whispers about his connections to the very corporations Evelyn was investigating.
See? There's always a but. So we've got a mayor with potentially a lot to lose if Evelyn's findings went public. Okay, who else is on our suspect list?
Then you have Marcus Lane, a travel writer passing through Ravensmere for the festival.
A travel writer? Doesn't exactly scream suspect.
True, but he seemed very interested in Evelyn's work, and some say he had a background in environmental activism.
Okay, now that's interesting. A travel writer with a hidden activist past. Could he have been genuinely concerned for Evelyn? Or was there something more to his interest?
Don't forget about Constance Riverton, the town's lighthouse keeper. Elderly, enigmatic.
And I bet she knew all of Ravensmere's secrets.
Oh, you bet. Constance had this way of warning folks about disturbing the ocean's secrets. Almost like she believed in those old seafaring curses. Could she have seen Evelyn's research as a threat?
A lighthouse keeper who knows all the town's secrets and believes in curses? That's straight out of a Gothic novel. Okay, anyone else we should be keeping an eye on?
We can't forget about Mark Finch, local fisherman.
Right. Hardworking, salt-of-the-earth type.
Something like that. But Mark was hit hard by the pollution Evelyn was investigating. Openly angry about corporate greed, even warned Evelyn about the potential consequences of her research.
So we've got a man whose livelihood is being destroyed, who's already warned Evelyn to back off. This is getting good. So we've got our cast of characters, all with their own secrets and motives. But let's get to the night of the crime. It all went down during the Festival of Whispers, right? Set the scene for us.
Picture this. Bonfires, spooky stories, locals and tourists alike, everyone enjoying the festivities.
Sounds festive, if a little eerie. So how does Evelyn vanish into thin air amidst all this?
Well, moments after presenting her findings at the festival, she gets a cryptic text message from someone named Deep Blue.
Deep Blue. Sounds ominous. Did they ever figure out who that was?
Nope. Still a mystery. Anyway, this Deep Blue character urges Evelyn to meet at the cliffs.
Alone. At night. During a festival with ghost stories. That's
Yeah.
not suspicious at all.
Right. And that's where things take a dark turn. Clara Bishop, Evelyn's childhood friend, and conveniently an investigative journalist, sees Evelyn arguing with a shadowy figure near the cliffs.
Wait, hold up. Shadowy figure. Are we talking like a cloaked figure or just someone they couldn't make out in the dark?
Details are a little fuzzy on that one. But before Clara can get closer, a scream pierces the night.
Okay, chills. Literal chills. So what happens next?
The search for Evelyn begins immediately, but it's dark, the cliffs are treacherous. All they find is her phone, lying near the edge.
Nobody.
Nobody.
So we've got a missing person case, no body, a town full of secrets, and a list of suspects that's growing longer by the minute. This is shaping up to be one heck of a deep dive.
Oh, we're just getting started.
Can't wait.
So, where were we? Yes. Ravensmere, a missing scientist, and a whole lot of unanswered questions.
And a phone. Don't forget the phone. Evelyn's phone, the only clue left behind. What did they find on that thing? Anything useful?
Oh, more than you might think. For starters, a partial fingerprint. didn't match any of our initial suspects.
Intriguing. A new player enters the game.
Potentially. But the real bombshell was the phone records. Evelyn had been in contact with each and every one of our suspects in the days leading up to her disappearance.
Okay, so everyone's connected to Evelyn in some way. But were they all connected to each other?
That's what investigators were trying to figure out. And then there were those water samples, taken from the area near those alleged dumping sites.
The ones Evelyn was so worried about.
They're the very same. And guess what they found?
Hit me with it.
Traces of industrial chemicals, the kind used by the corporation with heavy investments in Ravensmere's tourism. The same corporation, might I add, that Mayor Grayson was rumored to have close ties to.
No way. So it wasn't just a case of a missing scientist anymore. We're talking about a possible conspiracy, corporate greed, environmental damage, and a cover-up that might reach the highest levels of power in Ravensmere.
You got it. And remember that partial fingerprint? They finally got a match.
Okay, spill the beans. Who was it?
A guy named Robert Hansen. Used to work for the corporation, got fired a few years back.
Why? What did he do?
He was a whistleblower, allegedly leaked info about the company's illegal dumping practices.
Whoa! So we've got a whistleblower, a missing scientist, and a corporation that might be willing to silence anyone who threatens their bottom line. This is getting dark even for us. What happened to this Hansen guy? Did they ever find him?
Vanished. Poof. Gone without a trace.
Another disappearance. This town's got more secrets than a haunted library. Okay, but how does Hansen tie into Evelyn's case?
Well, turns out Evelyn had been trying to track him down. She believed he had crucial information about the corporation, information that could blow the whole thing wide open.
So she was digging deep, following a trail that might have led her straight into danger. No wonder someone wanted her silenced. This whole thing is like a house of cards, just waiting for the right breeze to knock it all down.
And that breeze came in the form of, you guessed it, Clara Bishop.
Evelyn's friend, the investigative journalist, she was relentless, wasn't she?
Oh, absolutely. She was piecing together the puzzle, and she had her sights set on Marcus Lane, that travel writer with the activist past. Something about him just didn't add up.
Like what?
His alibis were shaky, his behavior was suspicious, and Clara dug up some dirt on his past. Turns out his mother had worked for that very corporation, the one implicated in the pollution.
Okay, that can't be a coincidence. What happened to his mother?
Died a few years back. Mysterious circumstances.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hold the phone.
So he's in Ravensmere investigating his mother's death, which might be tied to the same corporation that Evelyn was looking into. And he's interested in Evelyn's work. This is getting way too complicated.
It gets even better.
Yeah.
Clara confronts Marcus, lays out all her suspicions, and he cracks. He confesses. To what?
To everything. He admits he came to Ravensmere to investigate his mother's death, that he believes she had been silenced, that he was watching over Evelyn, trying to protect her.
So he was like her guardian angel. But he failed.
He did. He tells Clara that he followed Evelyn to the cliffs that night, saw her arguing with someone, but was too far away to intervene.
Oh, man. He watched her die. That's horrible. But who was she arguing with? Did he see?
He did. And this is where things take a truly shocking turn. The person Evelyn was arguing with that night, the shadowy figure on the cliffs, was Mayor Thomas Grayson.
No way. The mayor? Why? What was he doing there?
Marcus said Grayson was threatening Evelyn, telling her to drop her research to stop spreading lies about Ravensmere, and then, in a fit of rage, he pushed her.
He pushed her off the cliff.
That's what Marcus claims. He said Evelyn lost her footing, tumbled over the edge. It was an accident. Or so Grayson claims.
So it wasn't just corporate greed. It was about power, control. The mayor's reputation, his career, all on the line.
Whoa.
And Evelyn was the threat. This is messed up. What happened to Marcus after his confession? Did he go to the police?
He was torn. He felt guilty, responsible. But he was also afraid. He knew his past, his motives for being in Ravensmere would make him look suspicious, so he stayed silent, haunted by what he had witnessed.
Man, that's heavy. To carry that burden, to know what happened, but be too afraid to speak up. But Clara, she didn't let it go, did she?
Not a chance. She had Marcus's confession, and she knew she had to act fast. She had a contact at a national news organization, someone who had been following her reports on the environmental issues in Ravensmere. She knew this story, once it broke, would reach far beyond their small town.
And it did, didn't it? Ravensmere became front-page news.
Oh, yeah. This story went viral. The idyllic coastal town, harboring dark secrets, a missing scientist, a corrupt mayor, a corporate cover-up. It was a media frenzy.
And that pressure, that public outcry, that's what forced the authorities to finally take action, right?
Oh. Absolutely. The walls were closing in on Grayson. He couldn't hide anymore. He was arrested, charged with manslaughter.
It's about damn time. But what about the corporation? Did they face any consequences for their role in all of this?
Oh, they did. The lawsuits came pouring in, investigations were launched, whistleblowers, inspired by Evelyn's courage, started coming forward. The corporation tried to deny everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. They were forced to clean up the mess, pay hefty fines, and implement stricter environmental safeguards.
That's what I like to hear. Accountability. Justice. It's a reminder that even the most powerful entities can be held responsible for their actions. This is why we do what we do. To shine a light on the dark corners, to give a voice to those who have been silenced. We're back, wrapping up our deep dive into the disappearance of Evelyn Carter. A case that started with a missing person and spiraled into a web of corporate greed, environmental damage, and a cover-up that shook Ravensmere to its core.
Last we left off, the disgraced mayor, Thomas Grayson, was facing a manslaughter charge. And the corporation, well, they were finally facing some heat for their actions. But the story doesn't end there.
Right, because this case wasn't just about bringing the guilty to justice. It was about a community finding its voice, fighting back against those who had exploited them for far too long.
And that's where Evelyn's initiative comes in. Born from tragedy, this community-led movement was all about honoring Evelyn's memory and making sure something like this never happened again.
They weren't just sitting around mourning her loss, were they?
Oh no, they were taking action. Organizing beach cleanups, educating the public about the environmental damage, holding rallies, you name it.
So they were turning their grief into action, reclaiming their town, their environment.
Exactly. And it was powerful. For years, the corporation had held sway over Ravensmere, silencing anyone who dared to speak out. But Evelyn's death, the revelations of their wrongdoing, it was a wake-up call. People were no longer afraid.
They found their strength, their unity. It's amazing what a shared sense of purpose can do. What were some of the specific things Evelyn's initiative did to hold those in power accountable?
Well, they pushed for stricter environmental regulations, both locally and at the state level, organized protests outside the corporation's headquarters, even partnered with legal organizations to file lawsuits against the company.
They were hitting them from all angles. Legal action, public pressure, grassroots organizing. A full-court press for justice. And did it work? Did they see any real change?
You better believe it. The pressure from Evelyn's initiative, combined with all the media attention, it was too much for the corporation to ignore. They were forced to clean up the polluted areas, implement stricter environmental safeguards, and pay hefty fines.
Now that's what I call a victory. It shows what can happen when people come together, demand accountability. It's inspiring. But what about Mayor Grayson? What became of him after his arrest?
His trial was a media circus, as you can imagine. The prosecution laid out a clear case, highlighting his ties to the corporation, his efforts to silence Evelyn, and of course, his role in her death.
And the defense?
They tried to paint him as a man who loved Ravensmere, who made a tragic mistake, but in the end, it was up to the jury to decide his fate.
And what was their verdict?
Guilty. Manslaughter, he was sentenced to prison.
Justice for Evelyn. It's a powerful reminder that even those in positions of authority can be held accountable for their actions. But what about Marcus Lane, the travel writer who risked everything to expose the truth? What happened to him after the trial?
He was a broken man, burdened by guilt, by the knowledge that he could have done more to protect Evelyn. He sought solace in the one place that had brought him both joy and sorrow, the ocean. Dedicated himself to marine conservation, working to protect the very ecosystems that Evelyn had loved.
Finding purpose in the face of tragedy. It's a beautiful thing. But even with Grayson behind bars and the corporation held accountable, I imagine there were still some unanswered questions, some loose ends that could be tied up.
There were. Some people believe Grayson wasn't the only one who knew about the corporation's dirty dealings, that there might have been others, officials, business leaders, who were complicit in the cover-up.
So the corruption might have run even deeper. A chilling thought. And what about Evelyn's father? The man who vanished years earlier. Did any new information come to light during the investigation?
Sadly, no. He remains missing, a mystery that continues to haunt those who knew him. Some speculate that his disappearance might be connected to the corporation, that he too might have stumbled upon something he shouldn't have.
Another victim of their greed. It's a sobering reminder that some secrets may never be revealed, some wounds may never fully heal.
That's the thing about this case. It's about loss, about justice, about the courage to stand up for what's right. But it's also about those unanswered questions, about the enduring power of secrets and the vast unknowable depths of the sea.
This deep dive has been a roller coaster. A mystery that unfolded layer by layer, a fight for justice that tested a community's strength, and ultimately a story of hope and resilience.
Evelyn Carter's legacy lives on in Ravensmere, in the cleaner waters, the stronger environmental protections, and in the spirit of activism that continues to inspire those who call this town home.
Her story is a reminder that even in the darkest of times, even when facing seemingly insurmountable odds, one person's courage can spark a movement, ignite change, and leave an indelible mark on the world.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
Until next time, keep asking questions, keep digging for the truth, and remember, every deep dive starts with a single ripple.